Welcome to another Cleverly Changing podcast. I am one of your co hosts, Elle, and we have an exciting show planned for you today. So, before we get started, let me introduce myself. I am a mom of twins, and I started homeschooling 7 years ago. And today we have a homeschool mom as our guest, and we are going to talk to you and we're just going to have a conversation today. So I want you to listen, share this conversation out with a friend. If you are watching on YouTube, leave a comment in the comment section. But if you are watching on a different platform, remember to leave us a review and subscribe. We want to connect with you. We want to get to know you, and we want to support you on your homeschooling journey. All right, without further ado, Miriam, let everybody know who you are.
Hello, I'm Miriam, mother of four little plants. they're real. And I'm a farmer and a writer and theater and co-host of the Cleverly Changing podcast.
Yes. So our
Awesome.
special guest today, please let everyone know who you are.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Frances Jones. And like you said, I too am a homeschool mom of one beautiful 10-year-old daughter. And this journey has started honestly since we had her. She had always been a hybrid of homeschool of things I would do at home and then of course in conjunction of public school. But it's been a fun journey transitioning over and helping other parents with everything that I've learned on this journey. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. I love that you have a little girl just like me. I have two little girls.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
for parents out there who are raising daughters, they often have our personalities, strong
Yeah.
personalities.
Yes.
so
Yes.
so my heart goes out to the mothers of
Yes.
daughters. And I know,
Yes.
Miriam, you have your two oldest are girls.
Yes, they are the house manager and the mom and dad. Mhm, that's them.
Yes.
I love it.
So I just want to jump into this conversation right now. On this podcast, we often talk about being lifelong learners and being able
Mhm.
to instill that love of learning in our kids. So, first and foremost, how are you teaching your daughter how to love learning?
We have always instilled in her the need to learn. That learning doesn't stop at the end of the day. It's never stopped at the end of the day. Even when you're in preschool, we continue to learn, and that's something that we instilled in her at a very very early age. And now that we have transitioned the full transition to homeschool, it's taken on a completely different dynamic of what learning is, and it's opened up every door that has somehow been closed for so long, just being in a traditional school setting. And gratefully we've had great school opportunities, great teachers, but it always seems so limited. So one thing that we truly enjoy is just everything that she enjoys, we dig a little deeper. Everything that the world is not just in a desk and a table, you know what I mean, that it's so much more, that when you can go outside and, like, you're a farmer, dig your hand in some dirt, learn about the earth, and yes, squeeze it, and really, explore everything that is open to us, so we absolutely love it. It is the best thing ever, best decision
So
ever.
So you're saying that it's the best decision, but you had her in school. What made you decide to bring those academic lessons home and start teaching her from home? Can you kind of give us a background story to that?
Absolutely. So what's very unique about our story is that I'm actually dyslexic. And when I was younger, my mom, who at the time she was actually a teacher, she did the exact same things for me. So anytime during my summer vacations, during, after school and everything else, I remember having these huge stacks of books and workbooks that I had to finish. So I always grew up with a mindset of learning is not just when the bell rings. It is an ongoing process. And when my husband and I became parents, I knew that that was something that I needed to instill in her. And even from my mom helping and really kind of pushing past those boundaries on what learning looked like for me, that then allowed me to embrace my learning style and my learning differences to be able to say, you know what? I learned this way. It's not a handicap, it's just a difference. Now I can be able to help other children, reach other children in the community, even going beyond, just our daughter, but then being able to help them to understand, listen, it may be something a little bit more there, but that doesn't mean that you stop learning. That means that it's okay to dig a little bit deeper. So that's my story of just growing up and understanding the importance of learning and it not being a cap. There is no capacity to learning, learning should be an ongoing process for us all.
Absolutely. What you just mentioned, I want you to, if you don't mind, can you define what dyslexia is? Because many of us have heard about dyslexia,
Yeah.
but we may not actually know how to define it or identify it. And I know for me, the first time I heard about it was on the Cosby Show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, yeah, that's exactly right. And I often post that on my page and just kind of give people an idea or a sense of it. And it's more common than what people know. And that's the funniest thing about it. But all dyslexia is, it's a different way of learning or seeing something. So I use this when I'm speaking to children. I said, for someone who is reading, it's when you see the word cat, and we know in our minds that it should be CAT. But for someone with that glitch, it does not read CAT. It may read TAC. It may read ACT. So when you're now trying to understand the definition, it throws everything off. So you then have to slow things down. I still, as a 40-year-old mom, I still have to, when I'm reading, I may have to read a sentence 3 times over just to make certain that I'm understanding and I'm then able to retain it. So that's really all it is. But it can affect there's so many different complexities to dyslexia. So it's not just one kind, because it's a way that the brain is actually digesting the content and the information. So it may be that for me, but it may be something different for someone else. It may show up differently for someone else. But the importance of identifying it as early as possible is important, is because it really starts to tap into a child's confidence when they're in a classroom right now, especially with so many kids in one classroom, not being able to do something that so many other kids around you can do effortlessly. It is taxing on self-confidence. Then it may come out in behavior, and it's not that. It just may be, I can't do what someone else that's sitting right next to me can do. So there's so many different layers to it. But ultimately, back to your initial question, that is exactly what it is. It's just a different way of learning and being able to retain the content.
I have a question.
Sure.
How early on were you diagnosed as such, and and how did you go about getting the diagnosis? Did you go through testing or?
Yeah, so that's why I'm so grateful for my mom. And she's not here. She actually passed when I was 14. But one of the things that I'm so grateful for is that she made certain that she had all of the information. She was my angel. She was my advocate. So because she was a school teacher and had already learned about it, she was able to step in and identify it. she was then able to speak to my doctor, my pediatrician, and say, these are the things that I'm noticing. And from there, she stepped in, and it was it was a flood of content, of information, of just really self-esteem building for me personally, because once again, you have, and I know I just read something, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you know what, and it was on the BBC. There was a teacher for years, college professor, that did not know how to read or write. So this is something that can happen, and you have no clue on who is actually able to do this skill. It's so many different ways to hide it, but that was one. That is the reason why she made certain. And I was diagnosed, I believe, I remember being in I had to have been about 5 or 6.
Oh, very good.
Yeah. So when it was like, that sight word recognition, she's like, something's not there. But as she worked with me, the coolest part is I still remember the memories of me just being excited that I could read a word. It was like a party within myself. I would see something on the television, and if I had the product, if the commercial came and I had the product in the house, I would run and go and get it, put it next to the TV and read it just because I could. So that was the confidence building that she did. That's what that was all for. So, and I think that if for a child that doesn't have that, for a child who doesn't, all they know is they can't read. All they know is it's hard. I can't write. I'm not understanding the teacher. It's going too fast. On top of all of those things, and not to have an advocate is detrimental. It can make or break so many children and so much confidence, till more advocates are needed to be able to step in and say it's going to be okay. Let's take it slower. Let's do what we can and build on that. And that's why the lifelong learning component is so important, because you may not get it all.
Yes, yes. I want to highlight 3 things that you just said. The first thing is, you're calling it a learning difference. I want to take a few seconds to discuss that, because so many of us brown parents, Black and brown parents, don't want our child to be labeled.
Right.
But not all labels will hold your child back. It's perspective that's important. And so when you embrace being dyslexic, you say it's a learning difference. It's not a stigma that you're placing on yourself. Right. It's not a negative thing. You're just saying this is just a difference. And I think that's some language that we as parents, we may not have experienced that in our own situations and our own communities, but it is something that we can take on and apply it now and share it with our children. Because sometimes we do need to change our language and how we phrase these differences in our home.
Absolutely.
I think different generation. So maybe not, well, depending on the age of your parents, but the older generation, for them, it really was a negative thing, because then you ended up where they weren't expecting anything from you, and you didn't have to do anything. There was no nurturing component to it. It was just, you're slow, you're dumb, dyslexia. And I don't even, was that even the term for it then, or did they just have it in the...
You know what's funny is that I only know what my mom fed me. When I tell you that she was a full-on advocate, she protected me from anything that went against what she knew. If that makes sense. So even if you have and this is, when I say this, I want to make certain that there's no, misunderstanding, but you have to be careful with what you allow to come in and taint what you are expecting or believing, or what you're looking to manifest when it comes to your child's education. If, you know, I understand there are certain situations, there's certain diagnoses that are very valid. Absolutely. Dyslexia is a real thing. However, I don't have to allow it to stop me or to hinder me.
Right.
I can say, you know what? I'm dyslexic. I can be proud of it. I can still be proud of who I am. And while I'm also doing that, I can also help the next child coming up so that they too can be proud of who they are and embrace how they're learning, so that it's a generational uplifting instead of a generational, let's just kind of bury that down because we don't really know exactly what that is just yet. If that
Right.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the other word that I'm highlighting is advocate, because you said that your mom advocated for you. And
Yes.
for all of us, no matter if your child has a diagnosis, if your child has, you know, a different learning
Mm-hmm.
style, if your child, you know, is just not interested in certain things, you
Right.
have to advocate for
Yep.
your child,
Yes.
regardless of what that may look like, how that
Mm-hmm.
may appear to you. You
Mm-hmm.
the thing about homeschooling is really getting to know your child and
Yes.
embracing knowing your child. Like, it's
Yes.
as simple as that.
It's
It's
so
not about
simple.
what you go and teach them. It's not about what curriculum
Right.
you choose. It's about learning and getting to know like your child in an
Mm-hmm.
intimate way
Mm-hmm.
on, you know, how their mind works. It's really like
Yes.
a case study. And so
Yes.
it's something that we as parents have to embrace. So your mom
Mm-hmm.
was an advocate. She provided intervention as she
Mm-hmm.
built you up for confidence. So as
Yeah.
Black people, you know, so much happens in society that we
Ooh.
struggle with
Yeah.
confidence, especially our young kids who are
Mm-hmm.
in schools. And if they are one of the only few that may look like them, they may face other challenges in school.
Right.
But confidence is
Mm.
something that we need to be just as adamant about instilling in our child as we are
Right.
about teaching them multiplication or,
Yes.
you know, sight words or anything, because it is
Absolutely.
also a fundamental part of the development system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so funny that you say that too. It's because one thing that I do with our daughter, because of course she's 10 years old and she's tapping on that preteen stage, and you know, emotions and feelings and all of that stuff is bubbling over, and I'm like, oh Lord, what am I going to do? But one thing that I
We're
wanted to
all
make
there.
certain, we're there, right? But one of those things that I wanted to make certain, one thing that I always told growing up was, you know, your feelings are always going to be valid. That does not mean that mommy is going to always understand them. But what I want you to understand is that I want to give you that space, that time to sort through them, so that now if there's a conversation that needs to happen, now it gives us room to understand one another. And you know, even now we go through the feelings book and we sort out those feelings. That's something that I'm actually, like you said, we're taking time to learn one another. That case study, I love that term, that case study of just being able to learn the person that you created is, it is such a blessing. It's a blessing within itself to be able to do that. And I'm also grateful because what I've also learned is that not everybody is graced for it.
Mm.
Not everybody is graced for it. You know, in a perfect world, we would understand the brilliance of homeschool because it really is. That's another whole conversation for another day. But it is absolutely, it's number one, it's the first form of learning. It's
Yeah.
homeschool. I mean, it is what it is, you know, but not everybody now is equipped to be able to do that. And I think that's what this year has shown. This year has shown, bless them, it's shown a lot, you know, but our children, they deserve the best. I think we can all, regardless of what arena they're learning from, they deserve the best. And why not it come from their parents? Why not expand and, like you said, go beyond just multiplication and addition and subtraction, and tap into something that will carry them for the rest of their life, internally, externally, into whatever their purpose is. So let me stop, because I get all, I
No,
get warm and
No, that
fuzzy.
was perfect.
I get warm and fuzzy.
I agree wholeheartedly. With everything that's going on, a lot of people are learning that they too need some a feelings book or something. And I
Yeah.
think that probably, a big part of why a lot of people feel like they are not able. I couldn't do that. No, because little Peter always,
Mhm.
whatever, Sasha this.
Right.
And as a lot of times it has nothing to do with them. It has
Mhm.
a lot to do with ourselves,
Yes.
because we've been who we've been, how we've been for how many years, and
Yes.
making these changes and addressing these things that we haven't addressed before, or
Mhm.
decide to overlook, is
Yep.
painful, or it's annoying, or it brings up things that we really just, discomfort. And
Yeah.
so a lot of us are, hopefully, those who aren't homeschooling but kind of thrown into the homeschool arena with the distance learning, are able to recognize some of these, traits and feelings and things, and are actively working on making changes so
Mm.
that they can have better relationships with their children. Because that, to me, is one of the greatest things about home,
Yes.
building that relationship. They get to learn you, you get to learn them. They kind of see you as not just mom or dad, but they realize you're a person and that you had a life before them, and
Right.
that you experiences, and it's not
Mhm.
just I'm your mom, I've raised you, cleaned up your diapers,
Yeah.
and all this other kind of thing. There's a lot more to me, and that
Right.
exchange is very helpful in helping them to develop as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you are honoring your mom in many ways, because I see that not only are you helping families who are interested in homeschooling by providing consulting, you also have some books that you talked about
Oh
how your
yeah.
mom, she has provided you with that confidence, and you have some confidence books. Can you tell us a little bit about your books?
Yeah. So and it's so funny is that one of the when it crazy story with how we were believing God for a daughter, or a child for 6 years into our marriage. And I was just done. I was like, I'm not, just give me a dog and I'm good. I'm done, but I'm tired of seeing no. I had really kind of thrown in the towel, and my husband said no. So just kind of piggybacking off of his faith, and lo and behold, we ended up pregnant with her in 2010. And one of those things that after I had her, I was like, okay, God, I don't want to be, stuck in just to the wife mommy mode. I want a piece of me. Who am I? And he told me to dream again. He said, don't forget your dream. And I remembered that back in fourth grade, weirdest thing in the world, but that I wanted to be an author, a children's book author, but I did not have any inspiration. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. I'm like, you gave this to me and brought in my remembrance, but I have no idea what to do with it now. And I told my husband, and he said, well, just wait, it'll come together. And our daughter, of course, she's growing, and as I'm thinking probably about that time she's about 2 or 3. And at the time she wouldn't walk anywhere. She was just hopping. Everywhere she went, she hopped. And her nickname became, I just started calling her Cricket. And I was just like, would you just sit down, Cricket? What are you doing? Hair out to here. It's just massive, massive hair. So and one night it just came to me. I was like, Cricket Curls. Oh my gosh. I've got a character. I've got my muse. So from there, I write it, and I remember grabbing my phone, and I wrote the first book on my phone probably within about 20 minutes. And I just wrote it down. I let my best friend at the time, I was like, here, read this. And she's like, okay, what are you going to do with that next? Because that needs to be something. And I said, well, I don't know. And of course, being a picture book, a children's book, you need pictures. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have the money for that. So what are we going to do, as far as getting an illustrator? And lo and behold, the next thing is I have illustrated the entire book, self-published it, wrote it, everything. And it's now, on Amazon. 3 years later, I've got 2 other books that go along with it. And it blossomed out of nowhere, really. But with the books, it's such a, that was one of those things that I wanted our daughter, because initially the first book was to be a gift, a college gift for her, or a wedding present. That was my intention for the books. That was literally it. I was like, oh yeah, I got her, that'd be nice to get, to pass off. And the next thing I know, I'm in front of kids speaking and reading, and throughout our community, I'm like, this was more than what I actually bargained for. But it also birthed all of this, being out and everything else, so helping everything. So it has been a whirlwind. The past 5 years it has been a whirlwind, lots of changes, lots of transitions, but it really has been awesome. It's been awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know that when you see your hard work pay off and you hold it in your hand, I know when I held my book in my hand, I cried. Yes. Because it was like, all that goes into
right. Yes.
Getting to that finished product. And so I just wanted to say congratulations, because often when we intend to do something for our children, it's even beyond them.
Right.
It's beyond us. And Cricut Curls is beyond the original vision that you had for it.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I commend you for staying true to yourself and sharing that gift with our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Would you mind giving our listeners just a brief, please stop. Would you mind giving our listeners just a brief snippet of who is Cricut Curl?
So Cricut is actually inspired by our daughter, and her real name is Wisdom. I can share that. Her real name is Wisdom, but who is now 10 years old. I still cannot believe that she's 10, but she is inspired. She is a character that I created, inspired by her, who is caring, who is kind, who looks like another little brown-haired girl with a lot of hair, lots of curls, that often gets maybe a little disappears in a crowd just because she kind of closes back. But that is who Cricut is. And I can show you all. That's Cricut there.
Beautiful. Lift your screen up a little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Yes. There we go. You see Cricut?
See her. Yes.
That is Cricut. Yes. So yeah, that is Cricut Curls. That's all, and it's all for our daughter. That is what we wanted to gift her for a legacy.
So right now, I'm just going to interject for a quick second to tell my audio listeners that you have to go to the show notes page. Go to cleverlychanging.com to see a copy of her book. So we will put a link to where you can purchase the book, and also an image so that you can see Cricut Curls for yourself.
Love it.
Yes, because she's cute with her. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You said you did the illustrations yourself?
All of the illustrations, yes. And she actually helped me with the second book. She helped with, so she's my co-illustrator for the second book. So her name is on the bottom. She's like, Bobby, that's my name. So that's just another piece of the blessing with it.
Yes, and that's building legacy. I mean, we're gonna have to
Absolutely.
have another conversation
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
but but just to put that out there, we
Yeah.
have to start being intentional about the
Mm,
legacy that we're leaving our kids. And I
absolutely.
see that intentionality in everything that
Wow.
you've shared with us today. So
Wow.
thank you so much. Let
Thank
people know where they
you.
can connect with you. I mentioned that you also you're a homeschool consultant. So how
Yes.
can people connect with you? Tell them about your services and what you
Yeah.
offer.
So I am obviously on social media, Facebook as well as Instagram at Homeschool Happiness, and that's happiness with a Y, HAPPYNESS. You can also visit the website at thefrancisjones.com. My services include pretty much homeschool coaching. I remember the transition of homeschool from, especially from public school to homeschool. It can be tedious. It can be a lot to think about, from having a curriculum to all of the crossing of the T's and dotting the I's. So offering services as much as, as much as possible, consultation services. We're doing a free workshop actually right now called Calling All Parents, just kind of having them to think about preparing for next year, setting their children up for educational success, using what we've learned in 2020. And we know exactly what things look like. So let's take all of that content and information so that we can be prepared, instead of looking like we all were in March, like what is going on, you know? So, and that's a free workshop, but just being there and offering as much support as possible for parents. Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So I just thank you for taking the time to talk to
Absolutely.
the cleverly changing listeners, because one of the things that we say, or my motto is, um, that we have to constantly be willing to change when needed. And here's the
Mhm.
thing, we don't always have all the answers, but we can always try to do our best. And if we
Absolutely.
don't have the tools to do that, we have to ask somebody else for their
Mhm.
assistance, their guidance. So we don't have to feel like we can do it all. We can get help. It's okay to ask for help. And I think, I admire you for offering those services, because so many of us feel like we can't do it on our own. And part of this podcast is we're trying to tell people you can.
You
Yes, you
can.
can. And
Yes.
so that is what you also help the community with. So people, please support her. Check out Cricket Curls and
Thank
go to her
you.
website, support, follow her on social media. And just thank you, Francis. We
Thank
definitely would love to
you.
have you back on the podcast because we got so much to
Anytime.
talk about.
I'm family now. There's no getting rid of me. So it's
Yes,
like,
yes.
There's lots of little bits that we didn't quite get to
I
nibble on.
know. I know. Yeah. Yeah. You're stuck now. You're stuck with me. It's
Welcome, welcome.
Yes. So thank you. And
thank
are
you.
there any last words that you want to share with the audience?
I just want to share a word that has been resonating. You actually tapped into it already, which is just being intentional. This year has proven so much for every different facet of life. And I think right now, especially for homeschoolers, being intentional with the time, being intentional to make memories. If your day goes by and you don't get to what's on your calendar, guess what? It's okay. you know, being intentional and being present is so much more needed right now, and slowing down. So it's once again, it's okay. It's okay that calendar is still going to be there. Continue to pivot, continue to shift things over, but always be intentional within every day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. When you were saying that, it's okay.
Awesome.
And I was thinking the earth is slowing down. Okay, maybe not the earth itself, but nature is slowing down in our part of the world. And
Yeah.
it's starting to, slow down and go to sleep and take a break. And I think that you're spot on. Let's follow suit.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to take those cues. There,
Yeah,
you know, those are lessons out in the universe for us to embrace. We have to be
absolutely.
mindful of that. And our kids, sometimes they need a break. And I think right now, as we,
Mhm.
you know, close, we have to remember that this is a pandemic.
Yes.
And while we may want to push our kids, we also have to be cognizant of their social emotional well-being.
Hmm.
So if your kid is showing you that they need some time, give them that time. Talk
Give
to
it
your kids.
right.
You know, help them understand what's going on. Because really, we all are like, this is new for all of us.
Absolutely.
And it's tough. Just
It is.
imagine this isn't something that we had to deal with when we were school age. So just
Right.
imagine having to shift your whole life. Everything for kids that go to school
Mm.
year round, this is just groundbreaking.
Yeah.
It shattered everything that they knew. And
Hmm.
so for those of us who are working from home, it's like we're learning new lessons over and over again.
Yeah.
And so there are times when we need to cut back, there are times when we
Hmm.
need to take a break, and that is okay. So
Hmm.
all three of us ladies are saying,
Yes.
give yourself grace,
Yes.
pivot when you need to,
Get it?
rest when you need to, and listen to your kids. They are
Absolutely.
our heartbeats. But we do
Absolutely.
have to slow down enough to hear and to
Yeah.
get the understanding that they're sharing with us, because they
Yeah.
have feelings too, and we
Yes.
shouldn't overlook them, you
Right.
know. And so those are the words that we're sharing with you. We have to be very mindful of that, because not only is it just the physical of what's going on in the world, like we have to physically distance each other from each other, but we
Right.
also are just dealing with things mentally. We're dealing with loss, you know.
Mm.
So if you're listening, you know, who knew the conversation was going to go here?
No.
But if you are listening and you need to get your kids some extra services, that is okay too.
Right.
And if you as a parent need to talk to someone, that is
That
okay
is
too.
okay.
Do it.
Because all of this is new, but identify what it is that needs to take place
Right.
and get the help where it's needed.
Right. Right. And I'm sorry. I know it's so important that you said that too, because what doesn't need to happen is to skip that part of seeking the help, and until it grows and festers into something else. Had it just been, tapped into early on, or right when it happened. So yeah, that I agree wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, sometimes people see us and we look so happy, you know, excited about our homeschooling, excited about our kids, excited.
Right.
And those things are passionate, those are
Hmm.
passions of ours, but it's taken time to get here, you
Yes.
know, and we've embraced it. And so we know that everybody isn't on the same plateau. We're not
Right.
all on the same level.
Right.
And so we're here to say, we're here to meet you where
Where
you
you are.
are.
That's so good. That's so good. I love it. I love it.
So that's it, folks. That is our conversation. And it was a joy. It was a
Oh,
joy. It was a pleasure talking to you.
thank you
And
so much.
I want you to say your website one more time for
Okay.
people so that they can visit.
Absolutely. So it's www.the Frances Jones Jones.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So, everybody, have a wonderful day. And we wish you the best. Reach
Yes.
out if you need extra support.